Greetings comrades, I am Admiral Andre and I'm very happy to welcome you today to the start of our new series. I still have to think about the name for the series, but by the time you see the video you'll obviously know what the name is. As I described yesterday, I'll just repeat briefly here. In this series we will be exploring the planned missions that were supposed to take place after the initial Apollo moon landings. So they were planned as part of the Apollo applications program, but of course, as we know, things didn't quite work out that way. But in this series we'll explore that kind of best possible scenario that we really would have wanted to see and should have seen, but of course didn't come true. So in any case, today we're going to start. I'll just create a new save for us. You'll hear I'm playing Stellaris music in the background, just as a change. It won't be a permanent thing, just for us to start today. And also, I hope you'll excuse my cheap headphones and of course lack of any kind of a green screen. If I ever do monetize my videos, I'll use that to buy a green screen and things like that. But anyway, we won't worry about that right now. So there you also see the Spectra visual compilation. That's the thing I spoke about yesterday that basically overhauls the graphics here. At any rate, let's just start. You'll see if I say resume save, I only have the one here. This is the one I showed you yesterday, the missions that I've done already. So I'll just cancel that and start a new one. Now this will definitely be a sandbox because I don't want to do the whole career thing from the start and getting to the basic parts and so on. I'll still do something like that one day, maybe, we'll see. But it's more fun to just jump right into it and have all the parts available. So I'll just call this YouTube after Apollo. We'll just put it like that, even though it will still be Apollo. And I'll just say Feb 2020. What I'll also do is I'll share the save with you. I'll still figure out how to do that, but then it's possibly easier as well if you want to play along. For the flag right now, I'm just going to take the NASA flag because obviously we'll be looking at NASA's work as it was planned initially. And then of course I want to go into the difficulty. Now here I want to change a few things. I always do this. I always turn the re-entry heating up to full 120%. We leave everything else here. I'll allow reverting and quick loading, but I'll discuss with you when we get into the game what I have planned for that. Or actually I can say it now, it doesn't matter, there's no big surprise there. It's just that I will use quick saves and quick loads if there's a problem, and believe me, there has been a problem because right now we're experiencing blackouts again here in South Africa. That is currently level 2 or stage 2 load shedding as they call it, and that means we lose power for twice a day for 2.5 hours each time. And luckily we know when it's going to happen. It's going to happen about 3 hours from now. But the last time I was playing and the power went out and I forgot about it and the save was corrupted, so I had to do some magic there to repair it. But I don't want that to happen to us or any kind of problem with mods or things like that. So we will definitely use quick saving and quick loading in that case. But if I make a mistake, I'm not reverting. I'll keep the option to do that. I'll maybe allow reverting on the launch pad because obviously you're on the launch pad, so it doesn't matter. But as soon as the flight starts and there's a problem, we have to live with it and deal with it. There's going to be no crew respawn, no auto hire, no indestructible facilities, no stock vessels, but I'm definitely going to allow the other launch sites. I'm not sure if I'll use them in this initial few episodes, but we'll see. Then with the advanced, should they start off with maximum experience? You know, I'm going to turn that on because we're imagining now that Apollo, all the Apollos before even Apollo 11 happened, including all the Apollos up to number 20, as I said yesterday. We'll discuss that a little bit more now. So I'm assuming that at least our astronauts have some experience and that their training now is good enough to allow them to have enough experience to deal with repairs and issues like that. I don't want to deal with that right now. Part pressure limits, I guess we'll do that. Part G-force limits, we'll do that. Kerbal G-force limits, I always do about 0.6, thereabouts. Let's make it 0.64, just so they can't withstand ridiculous amounts of G-forces. Crossfeed rules I don't want. Part upgrades applied in sandbox. I don't really know what this does, but I'll turn it on. Not all SAS modes on all probes. Signal for control. Definitely plasma blackout. I don't want to turn on the signal for control because, again, if we are on the far side of the moon, I don't want to have no control. So again, we imagine that they do program some basic information onto the probes, etc. before they lose contact. This I always leave the same, but the occlusion modifier in a vacuum I turn up to 1. And the occlusion modifier in an atmosphere I turn to 0.95. And I am going to enable the extra ground stations because, again, we will imagine that the infrastructure already exists to deal with Apollo missions and so on. So I'll accept that and start. There we go, comrades. It begins again. Let me have some coffee. In this case, I'm using a mug that I bought in the Bahamas when I was there for a conference. So just an interesting little tidbit there. Gene Kerbin, I've met you before. Let's just have a look at our astronaut complex. If there's anyone else available, Jane Kerbin, I'll take her straight away. She's not very smart, but I like the name. Barbel, I almost thought that was Barbie Kerbin. Ish, wouldn't, have to be careful of picking someone named Barbie, but anyway. Sigmund can be a kind of German-esque scientist, so why not? I think that'll do for our initial intake. Right, so let's just get through all the different messages. Got it. And the one in the VAB. Right, Werner von Kerbin. So there should be nothing here right now. And before we start with the actual launch and so on, I'm going to bring over my saved crafts from the other save into this one so we can just start with them. So I think for now we'll just leave and save this. Now I have to think, how do you do a hard save again? I think it's just save game like this. 2020 save, so we have to be careful to keep this save around. Right, comrades, I will see you outside the game in just a moment because I anyway have to transfer the crafts and so on. So I'll be back shortly. Right, comrades, while we're here, let's discuss again some of the information. I always like to do this, as you've seen before in each video, just so we get some context about what we're actually dealing with. So here we see the cancelled missions. Most people will already know about this, but this was supposed to be Apollo 18 through 20, and they already had the crew rotations ready and all of that. But it was basically cancelled, of course, as part of the budget cutbacks and all of that, so that NASA could save the Skylab. So that's why they had to cancel a lot of these things. But this was already cancelled back in 1970, so it wasn't even that long after Apollo 11. But in any case, we pretend this all happened because, again, we're thinking of a kind of best case scenario for NASA. So this would all have continued as planned. So we can also see the, I think this is the actual mission profile, the J missions. I think Apollo 15, 16 and 17 were J missions, meaning they had the rover and the expanded LEM from the initial few Apollos. But then after the cancellation of 18, 19 and 20, that was moved to 15, 16 and 17. But it would have just been the same as we've seen already with Apollo 15, 16 and 17. So they would have just landed in different places. Apollo applications, I don't know if there's anything here. Just opening some websites in preparation for us. Apollo X we'll come back to later. But this is the Apollo Applications Program. So this was created by 1966 in anticipation for the time after the initial moon landings. The only thing that survived from the AAP was Skylab, so that was the only thing that we actually saw. But in any case, the first thing that we're going to do is, let's just see, the first thing was Phase 1. That was the first kind of moon landings, Apollo 11 through 14, and then Phase 2 was going to be the exploration phase with the rovers and the extended lunar module, which allowed for slightly longer stay on the moon, and that was 15 to 17, but as we saw here, it would have been up to 20. So those are the J missions, I think. Then this is what we're dealing with now, and everything that comes after that. So the first phase here, Phase 3, was the Lunar Orbital Survey mission. That was going to be, let's just see, a 28-day lunar polar orbit mission would be flown after the Apollos and the ELMs in order to have several ground truth sites. So this is what we're interested, the ground truth site, which is where we will establish our lunar colony, or lunar colony anyway. So I can't click on that because the page doesn't exist, but there are some other sources about this. Let's just see, LMSS, that's the thing that I used before with the Gift of Apollo. So this again just gives a background. Astronautics is an excellent website if you want to read a lot about the finer details of all of this. But the first one, if we can just see, the system was cancelled due to the shrinking budget, but this doesn't happen in our version of history. 1 month mission to map the lunar surface. Emphasis would be on identifying the most scientifically interesting areas on the lunar surface for the lunar base phase. That's exactly what we're doing. It was planned for the system to be tested in Earth orbit in a single launch mission unrelated to the orbital workshop, Skylab, etc. The mission would have the primary objective of conducting manned experiments in space sciences and advanced technology and engineering. It would be jettisoned after its Earth orbital test. So the initial launch date of that test was 1968. Of course, that didn't happen. Now, I just need to see if I can get a picture for this. I've already built this thing, so I don't need to worry too much. But I just want to have a look. There we see some images. Gambit to the moon. Apollo LMSS mission. So it's basically just a thing that attaches to the front of the command module and then has like a scanner or a camera pointing down to the surface. Now let's just see if there's any more detail about this thing. There, that's the image that I used for recreating my version of it. So LMSS, they had several ones here. Gunter's space page is also a good source. So it's just like this tube with this bottom part here. Now we'll attach the resource scanner to that because that's what we're interested after all. So we'll be just changing it a little bit there. Now I just have to think again. If we look at the... Let's just click on this. And if I just go back. If they say with what this would have been launched, I think it was a Saturn 1B. Family Saturn 5, so that's the only thing they say here. There, that's the information. So that's why I say Gunter's space page is really useful. I've used this in my research as well because they discuss various satellites and specifications and so on. You can read all of this in greater detail. Classified cover name Upward. Reconnaissance satellite carried in place of the Lunar module. So obviously in the Saturn V it would have been in that Lunar module slot basically. At the end, the film was to be retrieved by an astronaut through the docking adapter, so that's why it docks to the command module. The first test flight in Earth orbit was planned for December. Now it's 1967, but anyway, on a Saturn 1B rocket. The lunar flights would have been launched on Saturn V rockets. Applications, but this was cancelled, so they were going to use this later on in Earth orbit as well, I guess as part of surveys and things like that. But so anyway, let's get into the game, comrades. We'll be calling this Apollo 21 because obviously Apollo 20 was the last fully planned mission, so we pretend that happened. Right, so here we also see Apollo 1B. That's why they don't have designations here for the number of Apollo. Right, let's get into it. Right, comrades, welcome back to our particular save, our version of KSP history here. So let's get into the VAB and just have a look. I just copied all the craft over from the other save, so there's going to be some random junk in here as well. There's some things here that have invalid parts. That was with the life support stuff that I used, so that's why I'm not really trying to use that again. Now I think it was Apollo 18 that I did previously. I'll just ignore all of that. Right, that's it. It doesn't have the particular thing that I want to use. Let's see if I can import it. There it is. So let's see if this has a attachment point. Smaller than that. Actually, we don't need to use that. I think it has a docking adapter on both sides. Oh no, it doesn't. Right, just a small decoupler there. Did that go on there? Just have to check. It's so noisy here, I can't hear if it clicks into place because of all the fans running in the background. Let's move this. You know, it's the usual thing of building. Takes some real patience to do. No, I think that was the only one that snapped in place, so we'll take this thing again. And that looks kind of bizarre. That's what I want. Right, so there's the thing. In that case I used one of those telescope modules, but right now I want to change this. And I think we'll just close this off. And just put a resource scanner on there. Right, now, lots of things bother me about this. Let's fix this. Perfect. You see, we need to pay attention to details as usual. You'll just have to bear with these moments where I'm fiddling with things, comrades. That's not quite right. Well, that's better at least. Much better. Now, resource scanner. Science. Now, this is going to be a little strange. I mean, it's obviously oversized for this. How can we deal with that? But I do need to use this because this is the actual thing we need to get our site. I guess what I can do is just remove the... just put it on like that. It's still going to be too big for that. Not going to work. I have an idea. It's going to be a bit strange, but we can try. For that, I'll have to offset this thing. Still not right. What if I turn this module? Now that clips. I don't like that, but it's almost working. That looks horrible. How do we deal with that? This is the behind the scenes building process, comrades, but you're well aware with all of this, how this works. What if we put a hinge on this thing? And then try and hide that. It's still not going to look nice, but this is a test after all. And the real thing didn't have this huge scanner on the side. Maybe I'll need to remove some of those things. And now I can't... now I can select that. That looks even worse. But that might work. So right now the scanner is actually stored inside the engine, which is a unique approach to a unique problem, comrades, but it will work. This will suffice. So we'll detach here, of course, as usual, turn around, dock with the thing, pull it away from the S4B, and then just deploy the scanner. So again, it's just to make things practical, just to work again with the stock parts. Now one thing that I do need to do, and you'll just have to bear with me here, is I'll have to replace these spiders. This is still the old model with the new one. We'll call this Rocket Surgery 101 with Admiral Andre. Use the bear version. Like I said, rocket surgery. Might as well be. Right, there, that looks a lot better. Now the other thing I just want to do is again move this a little. There's a RCS port on the top. That's just to make it look a little nicer, so there's not a huge gap there. Good grief, when I'm moving this stuff I'm just holding my breath. It's such fine movement. That'll have to do right there. I think that's the same that I did with the Apollo Saturn V. Right, and I think that's basically all we're going to do. We're still using the space shuttle engines on the bottom stage of the Saturn 1B. We've been through that. You've seen that episode probably. It's still there if you want to go back and check it out, where we built this thing originally. And we went through all the possible engines to see what would work best. Now, I know in the next update they will make it so that we can use the skipper without all of this stuff on the bottom. In other words, the bare version, just like with the cheetah, for example. And that might make it a lot better, so we can use that instead as in the place of the space shuttle engine. But anyway, they are of course toned down just to be more appropriate. And I think that's really all. Of course, we have these tanks we can change now. Obviously, orange is not going to work for this. I'm just going to consult another picture of a Saturn 1B just to see if we should have the stripes here or not. Right, really what we should be doing is having some of them have a basic dark variant, but of course we can't do that without changing all of them. Now then I'll just prefer the basic white version. Of course the middle one should be black basically, and just the corner one should be white. But in any case, that works. Now we just have to follow Scott Manley's advice and check your staging, and of course critical abort systems, because we cannot revert. So let's do this first. So the abort will toggle that, of course. Jettison the heat shield. I'm not jettisoning the heat shield anymore. I don't think that was something that Apollo really did, so I avoid doing that now. There is just something I want to change here as well. And again, this is, I know it's a bit time consuming to do all of this stuff, but once we have these rockets and things, we just reuse them over and over and over. And we'll definitely be using the 1B again. Now you see with this, the capsule has its widest point right there. And of course the heat shield is wider than that. So I want the heat shield's widest part to kind of be over the capsule's widest part without the capsule clipping through the bottom like that. That just looks a little better. 160 is fine, I think. I did turn the ablator up on the Saturn V because it was a little bit too sparse there. Let's put the shroud back, and that looks very nice. So then what I want for the action group is to have this whole thing separate, decouple. So then that will go away, and I think that's probably all we'll do. I could turn the engines off with this as well, but I think it'll look a bit more impressive if we leave them on in the case of an abort. Then I think that's basically all. Let's just go through the staging. Now there might be some problems here. So obviously we have the 8 engines on the bottom, and there's the problem. Now my camera is a little bit in the way, so I'm going to have to move this. Actually I have to do this now because I can't get that little button back there. So I'm just going to have to stop the recording. I'll be back in a moment. Right, I'm back again, comrades, and we can now continue, just so I can see all of the buttons here, but also my webcam mustn't block the Kerbal portraits on the bottom here, so this is the best place for it. Now let's get to the second stage, really, or the second action that we do, and that has to be this coupled with, what's this thing here? No, that's all wrong. This, and also the solid rocket motors there, just to pull us away from the first stage. And after that, actually I also want the ullage engines to fire. After that we are going to separate the CSM there. Where's this? It's that thing right there. So that will separate that. Then I press number 1 on the keyboard to activate the RCS, and then we separate that after docking. This I'll eject. That should be there. This will also fire with that. Then that, we're not separating the side panels. That's only in a case of having experiments on the service module that we need to expose it to space. Then that, and then the parachutes. Let's just go through the action groups again. So 0 fires the abort and decouples it, so that's when we get rid of that. 9 deploys the drogue chutes, and 8 cuts them and then deploys the main parachutes. Right, I think we're ready with this. I'll call this Apollo 21. Save it. Already exists. I just want to think now. That was my gift of Apollo 21. I don't know if I want to overwrite it, so I'll call this. What should we call this? NS? New series? Maybe? Oh yes, actually, I know what we're gonna do here. I still have that list of names, comrades, from the people who commented on the previous series, and I want to use their names for the command module and the landing module, the LEM. Because obviously we know the real things also had names like Snoopy, etc, etc, but I want to use names of people who comment. So I'll first go back to that list again, and then I'll add anyone who comments after that, so on the previous video, etc, etc. So I'll just go to that and I'll find the first name on my list again, and we'll start with that again. It's the right thing to do, comrades. Right, comrades, the Apollo 21 command module will be named Lee Foster. I like this. We'll do it exactly like that. So then it's nice to save it like that and again have some connection to actual people. So let's launch this thing and hope for the best. Who shall we select for the crew? I think it has to be the original 3, so they're not going to do a spacewalk here. It should be fine like this. Delta V I hope will be enough. We'll see. Save again, overwrite, and launch from the main launch pad. I think here we will launch from the main launch pad, unlike in the previous series, because that was more for the beginning phase. Now we've already had all the Apollos up to Apollo 20, so obviously the main launch pad will be ready. Right, there's our first actual mission of a new series. So let's save that, F1, so I can just use that in the thumbnail. And we will be going into a polar orbit, because obviously we need to test the scanner. So I'll be going south, so we dump the first stage over the ocean instead of over the land here. Right, let me count us down. Actually, I think I'll stop the music now. Let's just switch out of the game quickly. Right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we're away. Let's hope for the best, right? I can't revert now. After we take off, there's no reverting. Right, so I want to go south, but again I have to angle it slightly, and unfortunately I don't have... I wonder why that's the case. Oh, I see what I did. I actually did turn on the Kerbal experience, even though I thought that was giving them full experience. That's why I don't get all the controls here. But maybe it's okay. Well, you see, they have no experience at all. But we'll just roll with that, comrades. It's maybe better, so they actually get some experience through the series. Of course, that makes the launch more difficult because I have to do it manually now. But let's hope for the best, right? So you're gonna have to forgive me, comrades. It's time. It's focus time again. Okay, 18 kilometers. I don't have the Kerbal engineer installed again. I don't need that anymore, even with the space shuttle. Let's just keep the mods to a minimum. Right, 18, 19. We're doing fine actually. It's quite easy to fly this thing. Now I don't know if the escape system jettisoned before the second stage fired. That's something I'm not sure about. We'll just have to roll with it, right? It's still a little too low. I guess we'll do it after the stage separates. Also want to avoid re-entry heat. Okay, we're about to stage. Oof! Oof! Abort, abort. I made some mistakes there, comrades. The explosion there kind of put me off, but in actual fact it was just the first stage blowing up, and then when I pressed the spacebar again, we separated the command module. Now what do I need to do? I need to get rid of you and hope this thing is not going to blow up. Uh-oh. This is a problem. Now I can't select the command module. Okay, well, we'll just have to deal with this now. That's another thing I changed with the Saturn V. I did give them some wheel authority, so I'll just have to change that in the craft file. Now, can I get the RCS working and us out of here? Or are we just attached to this thing still? We are. That's better. Right. Now it's going to be a disgraceful fall back to Kerbin, unfortunately. I'll speed this up for your sake, so you don't have to sit through it. See you in a moment, comrades. Well, comrades, what a disgrace. But anyway, I think it's an interesting start to our series. Right, now I can obviously recover them. I was thinking on the way down, what do we do now? Do we call the next one again Apollo 21? I don't think so, because when we look at Apollo 13, that one obviously didn't meet its objective, but they didn't call the next one Apollo 13 to make up for it. You just continue the numbering. So I think this will be a quick Apollo 22. So there we go. Now, I also thought on the way down, what is the response to this whole issue? And I think, very simply put, we'll separate the stage. I'll fire the separation motors and I'll fire the ullage motors. And then after that, I'll activate the main engine so it doesn't blow up this first stage again. And that's it. So that's the only basic change. Everything else worked well, except I want to put the wheel authority about 50%. Just again, ease of use, quality of life type of thing. And I think that's all really. Was there anything else? No. So I'll save this still, but then we call this one Apollo 22 now. And the next name on the list is Solar Sojourner. There we go, comrade. It's your time already. Sorry, comrade, leave faster. That's the way it goes sometimes. Save again, and we'll use the same crew. They are learning from their experiences. And then we launch again and try again. That's the way of life. That's the order of the day. And there we go. No unnecessary waiting here. There's the moon, of course, our goal. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're off again. Now, they didn't get any experience from that, unfortunately, which is maybe not the best, but that's okay. Now we've dealt with this problem, so our future Saturn 1B missions won't encounter the same issue. We hope, anyway. Just gotta focus on that prograde there. So much easier when you can just put it on lock to prograde. But I guess we have to earn it now. Right, let's go, let's go. I guess I can just turn this off. We do have fins on the first stage, so we make up for it. It does sort of automatically lock to prograde. Now I can just switch to orbital already. So we just see the orbital marker coming to the 180-degree line. And then as it does that, I'll just move us closer again. Even though there's still aerodynamics pushing us away from it. Slow down, slow down. Actually, I have to check if the center engines of the Saturn 1B also cut off later in the flight. Not sure. But anyway, we're ready. Now, separate. Wait a moment. And ignite the next one. There we go. Much better. I know it drifted through the engine there, but nothing I can do about that. And there we go. So 0. There we go. Another time for a... I know my mug is in the way now, but anyway, it's still a nice picture there. So what are we aiming for? 150 maybe? Let's try that. Almost perfectly aligned. There we go. Perfect. And just keep it steady now. Why is there solid fuel that's still full? No idea. That should be empty by now. But it is empty. Who knows? So why is there still fuel shown in there? Truly bizarre. Anyway, we just carry on. Gene Kerbin says carry on the mission. And I guess we can turn the lights on for our crew. At least they make it to space today. And we will have to separate soon. Of course, the Saturn 1B did use the service module to complete the orbit burn. So we'll just have to dock very quickly now. Okay. F5 in case there's a mistake, we'll have to live with it. But if there's a bug or something, I love that that doesn't cause a problem. One key that activates everything, we'll just swap around. Unfortunately now I don't have my target marker there, so I'm gonna have to eyeball this or lock to target. Just have to do this manually. Now that is a bit of a thing. I'll just have to use the locked version of the camera so I can see what I'm doing here. Bated breath. This is why I definitely need some reaction wheel control, just to make it easier so I don't keep burning the monopropellant. Now that's not quite right. No, 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 turn that off. Oh, this is bad. Come on. Oh. Well, at least we made it. Again, it's easy if the thing is in the middle and all of that, but anyway, now we just have to separate the thing. Now I really have to pay attention to my staging. Normally I could just ignore it and reload the game if there's a problem, but right, now we swap around again. Can go back to the free camera, which is my favorite for low orbit, and then we can complete the thing. Why does it say 17 minutes before we reach our apoapse? Are we're on the way down, that's why. Okay, time to burn. Let's just have a look at this thing. Oh, bad, bad, bad. But we'll fix this. Right, back to prograde. Now, of course, it makes it difficult because the LMSS thing is a little lopsided. It's imbalanced. Stop. Okay, let me turn this thing so that it pushes us along the 180-degree line. Gonna have to make some adjustments for the next mission, I think. The first thing actually is another thing I did with the Saturn V. I toned down the Wolfhound engine. It's way overpowered for what we need, and I know it was in real life as well, the main engine of the service module, but not this crazy, where it goes 4 Gs during the burn. Right, 150. Oh, never mind. 200. Stop. Right. Now I would love to F5 this, but of course I can't use it for the reverting. We can also deploy this thing now. No, motor engaged, not locked, and like that. Right, so at least it's now not folded up anymore. The next phase is to get to the apoapse. Yes, this is not going to help. Let's just warp there. But at least, ooh, what's going on here with the graphics? And we lost contact there for a moment. Okay, about like that. Just swap around and put us in a relatively circular orbit. Again, it's no real urgency with this, but let's do it. Slow burn so it doesn't kick us over. That's okay. 199 by 206. Again, because the thing is a little lopsided, it's fine. We'll leave it at that and say our mission is a success now. So in this case we point downwards to the planet. Again, that doesn't matter for the scanner really, but we do it. And deploy the scanner. That's very odd. The sun thinks it's behind something. This must be the scanner. Anyway. And perform the survey. Now, of course, this happens instantly, basically, but that's also alright. We pretend many hours later, and then there it is. And many hours later we are back. Right, now we can see what Kerbin has in store, and this is of course our test of a new resource scanner that NASA has designed. And if we just have a look, just for the interest's sake, where are the resource rich sites on Kerbin at the moment? Just have to find which one I like again. And okay, at 80% it all disappears, but at 70 there's a lot. Just want to change the color again. See if there is anything at 80. No, nothing. Right. So basically anywhere really, the whole landmass here, this whole area, the north part of the desert. Anyway, I don't think we'll be really gathering resources from Kerbin, but it's a useful test, you know. But nothing really stands out as a spot that has a very high concentration. Right, we've done the test, and I'm just going to time warp a little so we can at least pretend they did a full orbital survey and not just an instant scan. And then we'll return. And I think it's a good thing that we only do one thing in each episode, because you see how long it takes. The building and the launching and the reverting or recovering from a mistake, since we can't revert. Now, where are we going to land? I guess in the ocean ideally, and we'll say somewhere down here. Another nice feature of the next update is we can time warp a lot faster at lower altitudes, as far as I understand it, so that should be really nice. And we can just drop it, and we have only 31 meters per second left. I didn't even notice that. Luckily we do have RCS, which I can also use. Of course I'll bring the scanner down. I don't want it to just stay up here. Or do I? You know, in theory we could leave it up here and then possibly dock to it again in the future. But nah, let's burn it up in the atmosphere. We're not gonna do that. And we're out of fuel, didn't have quite enough, so let me just change the RCS to say 4 by throttle, so I don't have to hold it in the whole time. Now this burn is going to take a while, so I will skip the dramatics for your benefit. See you in a moment, comrades. Let's hope this works. Right, comrades, we are definitely going to be re-entering. It's taken a while. I've had to use time warp here, and I didn't even put all of them on 4 by throttle. I realized that quickly, so I just had to do that. But it's okay, we've got enough, and we'll definitely return. But that's another lesson for the future, for the next mission that we use a Saturn 1B for. So this won't be an issue with the Apollo. Keep saying Apollo for the Saturn V because it's more associated with that. But for that it's not necessary, but we definitely need more fuel on the Saturn 1B. Right, I think that's actually enough. We'll cut it there and we're back to normal time warp, and we can jettison this thing now. Undock. And we can also get rid of that. Now of course it was too early. And it just goes straight through in time warp. You know, as these things do. That's alright. And oh dear. Well, there it's gone again. Let's turn that all off and use the RCS on board this thing to help us. I guess we've burned all of that. Never mind. Lights off, and I'll see you on the ground. I guess we're landing on the South Pole. That's an interesting end to the mission. Right, comrades, we made it through. However, another thing that needs to be improved, even for the Saturn 1B, the ablator isn't enough. It doesn't cause a problem because by the time the ablator is gone, it's slowed down enough anyway, but I don't really want it to get to the point where it doesn't have any ablator left. Now, the other thing is, of course, we're landing on land now, and that's something the Apollo capsule never did, but there were plans actually to adjust the capsule to have legs for landing on actual land, so to save all of the expensive recovery fleet operations and all of that. We'll get to that later. This was a more unintended thing, but maybe I will also add legs to this thing for the next episode. I think that's actually a way to start, because we can never predict coming back from the moon exactly where we will land, so it is more ideal to have legs for the command module. That is one of the plans after all. Right, so next set of parachutes and we will be fine. Luckily we didn't land in the actual polar region, but this is still a very dramatic location. And there's the scanner and the service module. It's quite high up here, even though it doesn't look like it. And let's see, actually one thing I should get is that mod where I can time warp all the way to the ground. It will stop automatically, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, what I want to do also just right now, I want to see what this looks like in the daytime. That mountain is spectacular there, almost surrounded by mountains. You know, this area, especially like up on a hill somewhere, would be a nice place for like a training center or something. We can think about that at some point. I don't know why everything is wobbling here. So let's just put a flag here. This is this whole southern area, just for future reference, in case we want to do something with it. And I will call this, let's just line up with the north. For some reason I like to do that when I place flags. And I will call this Kerbin Site 1. in case, just, you know, if we see interesting places on the return or on the moon or anything like that, we should mark them for the future. Right, recover. And we will quickly make... Oh, and the game crashes. Hence, save. Why did it crash? I'll be back with you in a moment, comrade. Comrades, I'm just happy to say, luckily, there was a save here as we landed, so the flag was already planted. We didn't lose anything. This is why I must keep saving. Keep saving. I'm just telling this to myself. Keep quick saving, even if I'm not going to quick load. I need that because otherwise we can lose our progress. So you also see the trees now here that weren't here when we landed. Now it's funny, you know, you can play for days and weeks and not get a crash, and then when you want to make a video, you get a crash on the first episode. Anyway, it's the stuff we have to live with, right? Just keep saving. That's the key. So we've done all of this. We have the site there already, and Jeb is back in the cabin already, so it was saved right after that, luckily. And I can just recover now as I wanted to before. Don't you dare. Looks okay. Maybe it was saving at that moment. I'm not sure. Anyway, our 3 crew members are now up to level 1. So that's a really good thing. And I think it's better this way. So we have to give them experience. It makes sense. It's a new era after the first set of Apollo missions. Now let's just make a few changes to this craft. We're not going to use the 1B soon, but I definitely need to have this ready for the future. So the first lesson was up to 240 ablator. The second lesson was fuel, especially on the service module. I'm not sure if it's full. I think I took some out before. No, it's full. It is full. That's interesting. No, then it's fine, I guess. What I need to do is drop the thrust to 55, like I did with the Saturn V, and I need to add a little bit more fuel here. And save. Override. Okay, so Apollo 22 is our latest version of the Saturn 1B. We'll keep it like that. I think everything is fine. We don't want the service module to have too much fuel anyway, but I do need us to have enough to actually be able to return. The other thing is I'm not liking this. You can see what I mean here. Unfortunately, it has these teeth. I don't want that. That's the best I can do with that. Save again. Overwrite. Right, we'll keep it like that, comrades. We're happy with this. And our first mission, which was not entirely uneventful, is done. So we've learned a lot of lessons from this. In the next episode, we'll take the LMSS to the moon with the hopes of identifying a suitable site for our future base. So I'll see you then, comrades. Have a fantastic day and week. I can't say when the next episode will be because next week is also going to be very busy with lectures, but maybe towards the end of next week at the very latest. We hope, comrades. See you soon. Have a fantastic day.